Welcome to Dear Prudence. I am your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. I host a couple of other podcasts, including By the Book and How to Be Fine. Be sure to check those out if you love self-help books, hate self-help books, spoiler, I kind of do, or want advice on how to be okay-ish rather than perfect. Today, we'll be answering questions about being honest with a friend about their mental health, how to politely turn down an offer of friendship, and getting family to understand and respect boundaries during a divorce. I am so excited about today's guest. Here to join us is psychotherapist, bestselling author, Ask the Therapist columnist for the New York Times, and Dear Prudie fave, Lori Gottlieb. Lori, oh my gosh, welcome back to the show. We're so thrilled to have you here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Well, you may know, Lori, we always start off by asking our guests to offer a bit of unsolicited advice, not to do with any letter coming in, just a little something that you think would help people's lives be a little bit better if they tried it right now.
I would say the best piece of unsolicited advice is to be kind to oneself. And that means ask yourself when you hear that voice in your head that's going 24/7, is it kind? Is it true? Is it useful? And if it doesn't meet those criteria, try being a little bit kinder to yourself.
Oh, that is something we can all do. Is it kind? Is it true? Is it useful? I feel like these are things that little kids might know in kindergarten even. Like that's not very nice, or that's just not true. But as adults, we might forget that we're worthy of those questions too, and we can treat ourselves with that kindness.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Lori. Lori, we have lots more wisdom you're going to share with us in just a moment, but first we have to take a very quick break. Stay with us, listeners. We'll be right back with the great Lori Gottlieb. Hi, everyone. We are back. You're listening to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I'm here with psychotherapist Lori Gottlieb. Let's get started with our first letter of the day, titled, Not Mad, Just Frustrated.
My partner and I are in a group of friends who all live in different states. We're all in our early 20s and don't make a lot of money, so we don't see each other often, although we video call regularly. One of our friends, whom I'll call Sam, is suffering from severe self-worth and mental health issues. Sam is also unemployed and doesn't leave the house much, so they're often lonely. All of us have independently suggested different part-time jobs or ways to get Sam out of the house, but they always say they can't do those things because of their mental health or poor finances. Sam and I call each other semi-frequently, and every time I ask a question like, "What's new with you?" or "How are your holidays?" Sam will just reply, "Nothing." I'll try to keep the conversation going by mentioning things I know Sam likes or what I've been doing lately, but Sam almost always latches onto a very minor point in what I'm saying and begins arguing with me. These arguments are never serious, but it's taxing to argue with Sam whenever we call, and I often hang up the phone feeling frustrated and exhausted. Before all of this, Sam would frequently ask me if they had done something wrong and claim that our whole friend group wants to stop talking to them because they're, quote, so annoying. This isn't true, but the constant doubt is putting strain on our relationship. I want to be honest with Sam about how I feel, but I'm worried that if I try to bring up any issues with them, they'll take it as an affirmation of their fears that all of their friends secretly hate them.
Oh, letter writer. This is tough. I think all of us have probably had a friend like Sam, or maybe in some cases been Sam ourselves, maybe going through a bad spot, maybe not even realizing how much we're maybe repeating ourselves, maybe spiraling, maybe pushing away help when it's being offered and so on. It can be really tough to be that person. It can be really tough to be friends with that person. Lori, you were nodding as I said all this. What are your initial thoughts here? And what should our letter writer do with their friendship with Sam?
Well, first of all, our 20s are really hard because we don't really have a structure to them. We've come out of all these years of having a structure of being in a community, being in school, being in whatever you were doing. And then all of a sudden you're sort of thrust into adulthood and you're trying to figure out what's meaningful to you, what direction you want to go in. Everybody's doing lots of different kinds of things. You don't necessarily have that peer group around you in the same way. Maybe you're away from family. So it's a really hard time. And a lot of people in their 20s struggle. And I think that when the letter writer is saying that Sam is dealing with self-worth, I think what they're really dealing with is depression. This sounds so much like clinical depression, where your mind is telling you that nothing's going to get better, that you're helpless, that you can't change anything, you tend to isolate. You really, really want things to change, but you don't have the motivation or the energy to do it. And so it's really hard, not only on the person who's depressed, but on the people who care about this person. Because you obviously want to see this person thrive, and you're seeing them struggle, and you don't know how to help. So I really empathize with both of the people in this scenario, sort of the friend group and the person who's suffering in this way. And I think a conversation does need to be had.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the conversation might be a little bit scary. It's hard to say to somebody, I love you and I'm really worried about you. But I think that's really what needs to happen here. Sam, I love you. I worry about you self-isolating. I worry about this feeling that you can't leave your house. That's not healthy. That's not okay. Is there something we can do to help you get help? Maybe, we can help you remotely as friends, or you can say one-on-one, I can do this. I can try to help you try to find a therapist, either remotely or in your area, something that's sliding scale. Is there, a support group that we can find for you? There are things that maybe I remotely can help you track down or provide moral support while you start doing that research. And I know that can also feel a little bit scary to say, like, hey, you need to get help. But it's not a directive I'm suggesting so much as saying, I'm really concerned and I want you to be okay. I want you to get all the support that you deserve to have.
Right. And I think that people worry about, how do I suggest to someone that they seek therapy, because you don't want to pathologize them or make them feel like something's wrong with them. Yeah. Which, of course, therapy is not that, but some people still carry that stigma around it. So I think one way to do that is to say, it breaks my heart to see you with all of the qualities that we love about you, to, really kind of have a very small life right now, that we know you can have a much bigger life. Yeah. And, we've all had times when we've struggled, so that it normalizes it. It's not you're the one out of our friend group who needs to go to therapy. Yep. It's we've all had times when we've struggled, when we didn't know what to do, when we felt just so down and unmotivated and scared. And, therapy has really helped, whether this person has been to therapy or they know people. You can say, I know people who've been to therapy and it's really helped them. If I were in this situation, I would 100% go to therapy. I've been to therapy, whatever it is, just to normalize that this is something that you would go to a coach for almost anything else, right? You'd get help for almost anything else that was not your area of expertise. And you're struggling, and there's a person who has some expertise who might be able to offer you something that we who don't have the expertise can't offer you, and you who don't have the expertise don't know how to kind of move forward. And I think it's this place of not pity, right? So it's not we're so worried. It's more like, we care so much about you and see all of these great qualities in you. And we also see that, you're living in this way that doesn't really align with that.
Yeah. Now that you bring it up, I did use that same language with a friend not that long ago, where I said, I love you and it breaks my heart not to see you being all the great things you are, or acknowledging it. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, I don't think I said I was worried. I did say it broke my heart, though. I used those exact words. And I will say, in the case of this particular friend, I think that shook her out of her, inward lookingness for just a moment to look outward and see, oh my God, it's breaking Kristen's heart the way that this is just the same thing over and over again. Every time we get on the phone, I repeat the same thing for an hour straight. And it made her pause for a second. And she was like, I didn't realize it was affecting you. Wow. And it's like, it's not even about affecting me. It's the fact that I love you and I want you to be okay,
Right. And it's not so much about, you're being a burden to us.
Yeah.
It's the opposite. It's that, we really want to be here for you. It's not nobody cares and they're going to abandon me, which is part of the letter of, people think I'm annoying. It's no, we don't, it's not about abandoning you. It's about we're all rallying around you. We're all here. Yeah. So if she can feel like you have this whole team that's here for you and supporting you and rallying around you, and we don't have that kind of expertise. So part of what we want to do as we rally around you is to support you in getting to the right person who can also help you. And how can we support you in that? Now, some people, when they're depressed, are what I like to call help rejecting complainers, which is it's not an insult. It's just describing the behavior. And the behavior is a lot of people will offer a lot of help and they'll say, yeah, no, I don't really want to go to a therapist, or I don't really need help, or I'm doing fine, or that won't work because, so they kind of want help, but they reject the help. And I want the letter writer to know that this is not your full-time job. Yeah. So you can offer what you can offer, and people are ready at different moments to hear different things. So you can keep offering that kind of support, but you don't have to listen to a long litany of complaints. You don't have to try to, be the person's therapist, but you can be the person who, when you do talk to this person and they say nothing's happening, you can say, yeah, I hear that. I think it would be so great if I could help you, or we could help you find some support to get you out of this rough phase, because we've all been there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, such compassionate advice, Lori. Letter writer, we wish you the best. We know you're a good friend. We can hear it in your letter that you want the best for your friend, and you want the best for yourself too. It sounds like too, and you deserve good things. Sam deserves good things. So good luck to you. All right. Our next letter is titled, I Have Enough People Already, Thanks.
I'm wondering if there's a polite way to rebuff someone's offer of friendship. For context, I am someone who's preferred solitude over socializing for as long as I can remember, perhaps due to neurodiversity. Now I'm middle-aged, have a partner, a son, 5 siblings, and 2 living parents. In short, I already have all the socializing I need, and I don't want any more. My question is, how do I respond when other women make overtures of friendship? The last thing I want to do is go out for coffee or have long text or phone conversations. I just don't want friends. The little time I get to myself is precious, and it makes my skin crawl to think about someone intruding on that. There's no polite way I can think of to say, no, I don't want to be friends. My attempts in the past to hold on to my independence have hurt feelings and angered people, and I don't want that. I'm probably too old to not know how to do this, but I'd be grateful if I could get some guidance. How do I signal that I'm not interested?
Oh, letter writer. I love this letter. This is actually on my current season of How to Be Fine, a show that I host that is all this season about quandaries of friendship and loneliness. We've gotten this letter from several people. So letter writer, first and foremost, you're not alone. We all have only so much bandwidth. We only have so many hours in the day. We have so many people we love already. We have work and so on. And while some of us want as many friends as possible and love meeting new people any chance we get, some of us don't. And there are, in fact, easy ways to say, that's okay. I appreciate the invitation, but no. And I have some suggestions of ways you can do that. But Lori, I'm going to let you speak first before I get into those.
Yeah, I'm of two minds about this letter, actually. I think that we all have limited time, and we have to really be intentional about how we spend it. And at the same time, this letter writer is saying, my entire universe is my parents, my partner, my siblings. And there's nobody outside the family. And I think that sometimes we think at that time when everything is just converging and we have no time for anything else, that we won't ever need friends. We won't ever need someone outside of this already overwhelming group of people. But one day you might. Your parents aren't going to be there forever. Who knows what's going to happen with your partner? Like, life happens, your siblings. And so I think it's a little bit dangerous to kind of say, I don't want any friends. Mm-hmm. It's nice to even have one friend or a couple friends and then set limits on how much you see them, because just because you have a friend doesn't mean you, as the letter writer said, you have to spend hours having coffee and doing all that. Having a friend can mean so many different things. So I think to sort of cut off the potential for some kind of friendship that works for you with, the amount of contact you want or don't want might be a little bit extreme.
Yeah. So some thoughts here. I think, first of all, that you are allowed to say no to people. I know that I almost feel like this episode of the show, a lot of it's just like, no is a full sentence. No is a complete sentence. And it's okay to say no. Or if you want to soften it and leave the door open, because it might be good for you to leave the door open. It might be good at a certain point to have somebody like this in the future who really likes you now and is inviting you out. It might be good down the road to maybe develop a friendship with that person. It's okay to say, I am so busy right now. I'm having, an overwhelming season of life, taking care of aging parents, spouse, I'm a parent, all these other things that are going on right now. But would it be okay if down the road I check in with you? And it could just be as simple as texting them from time to time down the road. Again, it doesn't have to be hours-long coffee, as Lori was saying here. It doesn't have to be anything like that. And it may just be that the people who are asking you to hang out might just not be the people who you feel an immediate click with. Maybe you'll feel a click with them later, or maybe at some point somebody will say, hey, I'd love to hang out with you again sometime. And that'll be the person who just clicks with you in the right way. And you'll feel like, yeah, that's somebody I want to get to know better. But I just think it's okay to say no, but I might in some cases encourage you to leave the door open, because I agree with Lori. Having at least one friend outside of your romantic or family life, I think is really useful. If for no other reason then sometimes we need to get a fresh set of ears on a problem that's happening with our family. Sometimes it's good to have somebody who's on our side, who isn't fully invested or a part of the family unit in another way. Somebody who can just hear us for who we are. And I find that incredibly valuable, especially for women who turn their families and romantic partners into their life. Sometimes, not that you're unsafe, letter writer, but there's a sense of safety and also just making sure we have people on our team who are outside of our family unit. So, you are allowed to say no, but maybe down the road, maybe this is something that you can be amenable to and see the benefit of and leave the door open for. One other thing I would mention is I don't think when you are saying no or when you're pushing people off for a little while, I don't think you need to bring up your neurodiversity or bring up a bunch of excuses either. You can simply say, this season of life, I'm so busy right now. And then maybe leave the door open or maybe not. What are your thoughts, Lori?
Yeah, absolutely. That was exactly what I was going to suggest, was this idea of you don't need to say no, never, right? and then you feel awkward and you don't know how to say that. You can simply say, I am so overwhelmed right now with everything going on. I would love to have coffee, but I just don't have a minute to do that right now. And let me get back to you when things change. That person probably won't follow up with you. Maybe they will, but you can still be busy, right? They might take your lead. And again, what the friendship looks like, that's where you get to decide how much contact you have or don't have. And so this idea of what you said about clicking, I think is so important, that there will be part of when somebody wants to see about a friendship. They're saying, let's have coffee. You don't know if you're going to click. You don't know if you're going to like spending time with each other. You don't know if you're going to want to be sort of text buddies, every once in a while, every 6 months. You don't know what it's going to be. So it's kind of a discovery period. It's like, if you do feel like, going and having a coffee, or maybe that's overwhelming and too much. Maybe it's kind of like you might every now and again, send a funny text to the person, or they might send you one. And that's what the friendship is. That's fine. You might find that you don't click at all with this person and you both feel that way and nothing moves forward. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're taking on a full-time job by saying yes. If you want to engage with this person in any way, you can set the parameters.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Letter writer, we wish you luck. We know you've got this. And who knows, at the end of this, you might have a new friend, or maybe you'll comfortably not have a friend for now. Not now, but maybe later. All right, we are going to take a quick break. You're listening to Dear Prudie, and when we come back, we'll be reading one more of your letters. Stay with us. Welcome back to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, sitting in for Janae, and I am here with Lori Gottlieb to answer your questions. The next one is titled, Overstretched.
During our divorce, my ex-wife demanded that my bipolar sister have no contact with our children. I perfectly understand why. On more than one occasion, my sister put the kids at risk. In one instance, she had a meltdown and threw a glass that hit my 4-year-old in the head. I'm determined to honor my ex's wishes and respect her concerns, many of which I share. My sister, who despite her troubles desperately loves my girls, and my family, are up in arms about this. Christmas was a disaster. My sister had a fantastic tantrum, my parents screamed at me, everyone badmouthed my ex, who really doesn't deserve it. I was just glad my kids were with their mom. It ended with me walking out and telling every adult in the room that I would contact them when I was ready to speak. I've ignored all calls since. I really do not want to break off ties, but I'm recently divorced, my children's lives are upside down, my ex and I are engaged in mostly cordial, ongoing legal discussions, and I have no capacity to cope with additional drama. The kids, however, constantly ask about their grandparents. My ex feels I need to keep things as normal as possible, and it's just lonely coping with all this on my own. My sister will always struggle with change, but how do I get my parents and miscellaneous other family members to recognize that life is complicated, this is a tough situation, and my kids need support, not drama?
Oh, oof. That is a lot to deal with, isn't it, Lori?
Yeah. I think what strikes me most in this letter is that the parents are so lovingly thinking about the well-being of their children, yet the extended family, the grandparents and the sister, are thinking more about themselves than they are about the kids. This is a 4-year-old had a glass thrown that hit this child in the head. That's serious.
Yeah.
It sounds like the sister doesn't know how to self-regulate. Maybe she doesn't have enough support. Maybe she's not on medication that's going to stabilize her moods. But whatever the issue is, she does not seem like she is safe to be around the children. And the grandparents, who should be thinking, we want normalcy for these children who are going through this divorce, are not saying, let's spend time with the grandchildren, let's make things normal for them. They're almost using the sister as a bargaining chip. So what needs to happen here is that the letter writer needs to send an email, because it sounds like it's very volatile to have this in person and that the extended family can't really kind of self-regulate around this, as to send an email really saying, we disagree about this issue with our sister, and it's really important that for the children's sake that we give them as much normalcy as possible. We know that they want to be around you, the grandparents, and it would be great if you can keep seeing them while we as a family work through this issue around the sister. And maybe we get some professional advice on how to deal with the fact that the sister can be unsafe and it's unpredictable, and we don't want to expose our children to that. So maybe we need to get an expert to come in and help us maybe manage some kind of situation where we can keep the kids safe and have her around them.
I think all of that's great, Lori. I would also encourage the letter writer. It sounds like maybe inadvertently the letter writer has maybe blamed the ex, like, oh, this was my ex's idea. I agree with the ex, but just to have a united front in this case and say, no, the ex and I are 100% on the same page about this. Having a glass thrown at the head of a 4-year-old is not safe. This is dangerous. And the ex and I agree on this. The ex is not the bad guy. We are working together to try and create stability for the kids. And we want to, in the name of normalcy and safety, make sure that the kids are safe. And if we can see the grandparents, we do it in a way where, at least for now, sister is not involved. And so maybe that means meeting for brunch once every few weeks with the parents in a public place like a restaurant. Or maybe it means meeting at the park once a month with the grandparents, somewhere where maybe the sister isn't going to automatically be there because that's something that's agreed on in the custody arrangement, because we want to not just protect the kids, but we want to protect the custody of this letter writer. Letter writer could lose the custody of their kids if they don't comply with the safety measure that was already set up with their ex. And so I might try to make that clear also in the letter. This is about protecting the kids. It's about complying with this agreement and so on. It's about normalcy. Maybe things will change down the road, but right now we want to do all we can to see you in a safe way within these parameters.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point about the two of them being on the same page, it sounds like they very much are, which is great because you don't always see that. And I think that is going to be really helpful for the kids to feel that they have sturdy leadership, which is what they need from their parents at this time. And I also want to suggest that when they do get some support outside around what would it look like to keep the kids safe but not cut the family off entirely, it might be that the grandparents are fine in person, but the sister, maybe it's on FaceTime. She does an occasional FaceTime so that they know who she is. And it's not like one day she'll just pop into their lives and she's a stranger. So there are ways to do this where the kids are safe and there are agreed upon parameters. And as things evolve, meaning if the sister gets her condition under control in a way that feels safe, maybe there are some, supervised visits in certain places like a park, right? Or somewhere that might be a little safer, but not now. So I'm glad that they're going through this process of kind of ironing things out, because you're right, they can include this in the agreement that they're working through. And then with the other thing I would say is that it sounds like he sort of cut off the family and said, well, I'm not going to talk to you, that he sort of left in a huff because it was a very upsetting situation, understandably so. But that's why he needs to write this email, is to say, I'm really sorry that it made me really sad. Maybe instead of I'm really sorry, let's start that again. Maybe he needs to write them an email that says, I'm really sad about how that holiday went down. And I think we all agree that the kids are the priority here, and their safety and security is paramount for all of us. So let's talk about, here's, my ex and I agree that right now it's not safe because a glass hit our 4-year-old's head. And we would like to find a way to keep the family together, but also in a safe way. And we would like, you, the grandparents, to obviously be in their lives. The kids are asking about you. They definitely want this. And then with sister, maybe we can get some support about how we can integrate her in a safe way, whether right now it's on FaceTime and maybe later there's a way to change that depending on what her status is. And can we meet and can we talk about this with a professional?
Great advice. Such great advice, Lori. Of course, from you, only the best. So those are all the questions we have for this week. Lori, it's been such an honor to share the mic with you. I've so enjoyed this. Can you remind our listeners where they can get more of you?
Sure. They can read my book, which is called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. They can find me on social media. They can read my Ask the Therapist column in the New York Times, and they can listen to my Dear Therapist podcast.
Excellent. And listeners, you can get more of me on How to Be Fine, Buy the Book, and several other podcasts I host. Do you need help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? Write to Prudie. Go to slate.com/Prudie. That's slate.com/Prudie. The Dear Prudence column is published every Thursday. Dear Prudence was produced this week by Vic Whitley-Berry and Maura Currie, with editorial help from Paola De Verona. Daisy Rosario is senior supervising producer, and I am your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. That's all for this episode, but join us on today's episode of Prudie Plus, where Lori and I answer a question from someone who feels unsupported by their friends and family. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/Prudie Plus to get access wherever you listen. The episode is available for you to listen to right now. We'll see you over there.